What's going on, guys? Danny here from Metal Couch, and today we're going to be taking a look at a live album. And I don't normally review live albums on my channel, but this one was something that was released today that I couldn't pass up the opportunity to review on my channel, and that is Van Halen live at the Tokyo Dome in June of 2013. And I'm a huge Van Halen fan. They have a whole slew of releases this week, reissues and such that I'll be talking about, but I wanted to talk about the live album first. So, moving right in terms of how much material you're going to get with this live album, you can easily go on Amazon right now and for $13 pick up 2 hours worth of live Van Halen content, 25 tracks in total. Now, that to me is well worth the price. I mean, $13 for 25 live tracks, it's pretty unheard of, actually, unless it's an album that's ridiculously old. But moving on, I have a few things of high praise for this live album and a few things that I feel need to be addressed when it comes to this live album. Let me first off say I am a huge Van Halen fan. Not too big into the Van Hagar era or even the Gary Cherone era. I am a big David Lee Roth guy. I love Van Halen 1. Van Halen 1's one of my favorite albums of all time. And with David Lee Roth back in the band, back when I reviewed A Different Kind of Truth back in 2012, I really enjoyed Roth coming back and seeing what he had to offer after all these years, despite the fact that the majority of the album's songs were kind of Frankenstein from stuff from the mid-70s, which not necessarily a problem. The album was really good in my eyes. I gave it a very positive score. David Lee Roth, at the time of this recording, is 58 years old. Now, when a singer gets up to that age, it's very iffy as to whether or not they could achieve the same performance that they could back in, say, 1978, or even going back earlier than that when they weren't even signed or had an album out. Right off the bat, the first few tracks on this live CD, Roth's voice is pretty bad. It's like, okay, we opened up with Unchained and Running with the Devil. Unchained was, I honestly couldn't tell you if it was David Lee Roth. Running with the Devil, again, that did not sound like David Lee Roth to me at all. But then again, he's old. He's 58 years old at the time of this recording, so I kind of expected his voice to not be quite up to snuff, but these first few tracks are especially rough. I mean, I'm the One was pretty unlistenable, save for Eddie Van Halen's playing in that particular track, but there is a bright side to this. When you get to around the 8th track, Chinatown, his voice comes back in and is fine for the rest of the album. And this album is advertised as David Lee Roth's vocals have not been touched up in the studio, and I am well inclined to believe that after the first 7 tracks on this live outing. It was really rough, and I had no idea. I was hoping that this entire live album was not going to be like that. Thankfully, when we get to Chinatown, one of my highlight tracks from this particular live outing, by the way, his voice kind of normalizes and gets back into the groove of things, which was very bizarre. I mean, I've heard of vocal warm-ups before, but not taking 7 tracks. In terms of production, this is very well sound. It's what you would expect from a Van Halen-style live production. Audible bass, Eddie Van Halen's playing front and center, great drum production, really no qualms to speak of there. It's mostly just in the performances with Roth that I have a little bit of detraction with this album. 25 tracks, though. Take away 7 of those, left with 18. 18 still a decent amount of live tracks here. Some of my highlight tracks for this particular outing, I definitely enjoyed their rendition of Mean Street. Mean Street was really, really good on this. Romeo Delight. Panama was good. Nice 8.5 minute rendition of Eruption on this one. It kind of gets a little bit rough again towards the end with Ain't Talking About Love, but not as bad as Running with the Devil. And a nice encore of Jump, which, I don't know, maybe it's just because I've never looked up a thing of Van Halen live when they've played Jump, but I found the synths to be slightly different from the studio, which I guess that's understandable. I mean, that song came out in 1984, so it could have easily gone through some evolution there. You have a nice blend of David Lee Roth era songs on this. They take tracks from every single album he's been on, and to me, overall, this was a pleasant experience to listen to. For the price, too, I mean, picking it up for $13, $14 on Amazon, you can't really argue with that. Of course, you could also wait, because I think they're having a deluxe box set for $40 on their website. I think it's slightly cheaper on Amazon, which includes the reissue of Van Halen 1, 1984, and this, but it comes out mid-April. I didn't wait on that. I went on ahead and I just bought all three just right off the bat, and just like, hey, I don't need a special box to say, hey, here's Van Halen's reissues plus a live album. Anyway, this is a decent live album to own. It's definitely not a 10 out of 10. Honestly, they're old. I have to kind of give them some slack with that. I mean, they're in their 50s and 60s, and they're going out doing world tours and just rocking the house. And crowd energy in this one is particularly well. David Lee Roth attempting Japanese, to me, was kind of funny. And it's just overall a very, very pleasant experience to listen to live at the Tokyo Dome. If I had to give it a score out of 10, I would give it an 8 out of 10. Definitely a solid 8. I always have a preference of, I don't really think that song should be there, but it's a fan favorite, and I can't really argue with the fans, that have been around since the 70s of Van Halen, 40 years worth of fans. I can't really argue with them about that. So, really only Roth's vocals detracting from the first 7 tracks are what really drove this score down. Other than that, production, incredibly sound. Material-wise, you can't argue with it for the price. So, 8 out of 10 for me. Danny here for Metal Couch, signing out.